be good to get together, Jules, and just talk about some of the ideas that you've got, thinking about specifically about the ideas around viruses and stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
share your knowledge. I think it's really important. I don't think we do this enough in life, and it's important to share. So share.
All right. Well, what I'm being tapped on the shoulder right now is the idea of the virus and how the virus is a joyful thing if you think of forgiveness as a virus, but we project into our experience. We're afraid of, if you think of awakening spreading amongst us like a virus, like a very kind virus, but
Hmm.
we're afraid of love, we're afraid of awakening. We might project into the physical first a frightening experience of something being shared, and project into the physical our efforts to hold it off and to keep ourselves safe
Mm.
from love. Really, love is the only thing that's real. Love is the only thing there really is. But in
Yeah.
this illusion, I can project all kinds of things I think are real and scary, and it's up to me. And that, when I'm talking to my non-physical friends lately, is what is really emphasized, that it really is up to me. What I'm experiencing is coming from my thinking, and my
Mm.
thinking can always be replaced. All the fearful thoughts can always be replaced by truth if I allow it.
Mm. I think that makes some really good sense. And I think it's really a great idea to get these thoughts out there, into the consciousness. I mean, did you want to talk about, your kind of experience in regards to your particular experience with vaccinations and how you initially felt
Oh,
about
sure.
that?
Yeah. I used to be an anti-vaxxer, and I didn't take my kids to the doctor. I have 4 kids, almost 15, an 11-year-old, a couple of 5-year-olds. And I would do, things I would call natural if something needed to be done. And what I didn't realize for years is that that was built on a whole lot of fear and resistance. I was afraid of many, many things: death, sickness, others having control over us, things being damaging, like Western medicine in particular. I was pointing a finger at particular things and calling them damaging. And what my non-physical friends have told me is that that's part of a game I've been playing in order to experience suffering and duality. And I was starting to feel done with that because the suffering had started to feel very intense. And then, so they showed me what I'd been doing with thought. And then I kind of withdrew from all of that and didn't seem to care one way or another if doctors were involved. But I still held on to a pretty strong fear of vaccines out of habit. And I thought I could protect myself by avoiding things, particular things,
Mm.
and vaccines, that was one of them. My son, who had been homeschooled, wanted to go to school, and I was able to get a philosophical exemption, no, not religious exemption for him, so he didn't have to get the vaccines.
Hmm.
Then just a few months later, the state, I'm living in New York State, changed the law.
Mm.
So you would have to get every child vaccinated. And that's when my fears came into the light. And what my non-physical friends were explaining to me, they had been telling me for months before this ever happened. I didn't know this was going to happen, but they'd been telling me for months specifically, vaccines are inert. They do not help anybody. They do not harm anybody. They would just say it so simply and repetitively like that. So by the time this happened, it felt like part of my knowledge base. Vaccines are inert. They do not help anybody. They do not harm anybody. It felt like that was in there, but the fears were still coming up, like someone's going to die. Something's going to happen. We've been compromised in some way. So he had to get the vaccines, and at the same time, a bigger challenge came up for me. My husband had always been flowing with the way I wanted to do things, well, flowing with my fears, not resisting them. But he had fears of his own, and he let those come up into the light. He said, I'm scared of measles. I'm scared of this. I'm scared of that. I want to get the kids vaccinated. I want them to have this vaccine and that vaccine. That felt really good, because what my non-physical friends have been telling me is that when the fears come up into the light, that's a celebration point. We're not here to try to please each other. the best thing we could do is allow our fears to come up and to speak honestly of them. And when our fears are exposed, they can dissolve. And so that's the experience I had with this. So then we have all the kids at once getting vaccinated. And I said okay to it, because every time I asked my non-physical friends, they would be like, do you have any reason not to? And I couldn't find one. Just fearful thinking was the only reason not to. And I said, okay, well, let's do this. You know, the only thing that can happen is even more fear can come up. And I remember the night after they were vaccinated, I was awake. I was watching my then 4-year-old twins in bed, you know, like, is someone gonna die? Is someone gonna have some reaction? And that nothing happened. And that's not to say if someone has experienced a negative reaction and it appeared to be associated with the vaccine, I'm not belittling that, because I feel that every intense experience we go through is for everybody's benefit, and I'm sure there's deep healing there.
Yes.
But going through that, I realized this was for me, because the 4-year-olds just acted like the medical office was the park. Like, they were very happy. They didn't experience pain. They were excited to be there in a new and different place that they hadn't experienced before. They hadn't been to a doctor, but they'd seen all this, you know, doctor stuff for kids. And so it was very interesting to them to experience something in innocence. You know, they experienced it very innocently. And now that so prepared me for other people around me seeming to be pro or con vaccines. And I realized I didn't have to push against their minds or make an alliance with their minds against other minds. What I'm here to do is see the truth and joy and love that is the true nature of everybody, and to allow that to shine forth. And in order to do that, I have to allow all the fears to be exposed and allow all the fears to be healed. And in that process, realizing how powerful each one of us is in calling forth the versions of the characters in this illusion we're experiencing that are strongest, that are happiest, that we decide which characters we meet and which infinite versions of the characters we meet. And so no one has to be a victim. But if we're seeing a victim in our world, it's a profound healing opportunity for everybody to get our thoughts set straight. Or if we're seeing a villain in the drama that our mind is projecting with thought, it's a profound healing opportunity for everybody. So everything can be celebrated, no matter what it is, because it's always helping us.
I think it's such a beautiful and interesting concept that you're raising here. You know, the fact that we, you know, the perception that we have and seeing the vaccines as inert. I really love that idea. I love the idea that actually this can be a reality of ours. And so there are concerns around, obviously, the vaccine with the COVID-19, and there's concerns about the fact that obviously they, you know, the government or New World Order or whatever label you want to give it, will be rolling out vaccines to, you know, the population, and almost putting restrictions in place to say, well, your children can't go to school, or you won't be able to travel, or you won't be able to access your bank account, you know, all these different fears, and, you know, coming up to saying, well, you're going to be very restricted unless you have these vaccines. So I love this idea that you've been discussing with obviously your galactic friends about the vaccines being inert, and I wonder that if we put this out into the one consciousness, whether that could be a reality for us. So, you know, whether that, you know, it doesn't matter whether you are vaccinated or not vaccinated, it's not going to work, because we don't see the vaccine as being, you know, harmful in any way. As you're saying, you're not coming from a victim perspective from that. So I love it. It's beautiful, Jules. I love that. It's amazing.
And also the power of our mind-to-mind connection, because I am not popular like on my YouTube channel or my blog. It's small, and I have to say it kind of caters to my fears, because I feel safe with a small group and cozy and comfy. So I can recognize that part. There's another fear in the light. But what I get told all the time is just your mind-to-mind connection from realizing these things. You're always broadcasting. If you're walking down the street, and you're connected to all minds across time and space at all times. So if you allow these limits to be removed from your awareness, it helps everybody,
Mm.
everywhere, everywhen.
Mm.
It's just amazing what
I,
work everybody's doing.
I think you're absolutely, wonderfully spot on there, George. The limitations we set are due to the fears that we set for ourselves, and it's about exploring that. And there's so many kind of beings on the planet are saying, to kind of work on ourselves and work on your inner self and release your fears and do the healing and, empty the vessel. I've been getting that a lot. Empty the vessel, empty the vessel. And what that means is exactly what you're talking about, Jules, is about, releasing all that programming, all that conditioning, all those habitual thought patterns that you had formed, throughout your adulthood, your childhood, however old you are, it's not relevant. You've built up these patterns, and it's important about going back and releasing all of that and kind of, almost wiping the slate clean and starting fresh with something new, something different, to bring this ascension forward. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's a great idea. I really think it's something that maybe humanity needs to explore this. This is the kind of new thought. This is the kind of new way of being that we're exploring as humans. We no longer have to live in fear. We no longer have to have the conditioning, have the habitual patterns, have all of those with us. We can start afresh with something completely new. So it's beautiful, Jules. I'm so grateful we're discussing this, because like you said, the mind-to-mind connection, sticking it in the one consciousness field and seeing how humanity feels about it. It's an idea. It's not something that everyone's got to kind of, do or prescribe to. It's just an idea, and something that might be useful to you. So, bringing it forth so it's in your awareness, see if it's useful. If it is and it resonates, then brilliant, do it, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't at the moment. It might do in the future, it might never not, but I think it's just important to discuss, these amazing ideas and thoughts that are coming up right now, and getting us to see things from a completely, different perspective. It's beautiful. Thank you, Jules.
You're
It's
welcome.
really wonderful. So yeah, I love it. I love this sort of stuff. Isn't it cool?
Yes, it's amazing to realize everybody is the power, everybody's equal power, because the only power, real power there is equal power. The power we see playing out in our world is fake power. And what I get told, and now at first it's difficult to get told this, but then it's very, very freeing, is where I see a villain operating in my world. They'll say, he came at your request, because I wanted to experience duality. And in order to have good, I needed to have bad. And to realize the sheer power of that, everything came at my request. That's just amazing. But you have to be kind of gentle through it so you don't blame yourself. Like, I made the coronavirus, oops, to be told through the whole experience, if it appears to be bad, it's for everybody's healing. If it appears to be good, it's for everybody's healing. So no blame, just the responsibility, the ability to respond to what's happening, what seems to be happening right now.
I totally concur with that 100%, Jules. I as you know, that having the Fractal of Metatron, I see things from almost like a a galactic and then kind of like a universal perspective. So yeah, I do see that actually in this, on this planet, we are very much experiencing duality, the polarization, left and right, right and wrong, good and bad, that exists here. And so you are right. I mean, I don't see the reptilians as particularly being bad, horrible, evil, nasty beings, and I know they're being perceived to be that way because that's what's required here. But they're also, I've said this before, they're also teaching humanity exactly what they don't want, so they know what they do want. And that in itself is polarization, you know. So by experiencing, you know, dark side of things which you don't want in your reality, you're also going to think, right, okay, well, I don't want this, so therefore we want this, and work more towards the polarization that humanity wants. So I see that. I see that's what the reptilians are definitely doing, for sure, 100%, you know. And that's the wider perspective of this, you know. And I've said this before, I think it's all planned. I think this has been planned a long time ago, and this is exactly how it's been played out. So it's just about what we're going to do, you know, as humanity, and how we're going to go forward with it. It's going to be a very interesting journey, for sure, you know. So I think it's cool. I think it's really, really good.
To say they're my brothers and sisters and they're innocent, and to sit in the reality of that. My non-physical friends always tell me, we're going to laugh at the cast party. You know, if you think of everybody, they're just wearing their costume. The role they're playing is just the lines they were given. The actions they're doing are just the stage directions they were given. And to sit in the reality of that makes me realize we're held and we're safe, even if it doesn't look safe. We're when we stop playing with this toy of deciding what's bad and deciding what's good, and go within to what's real, what's always been there, what's stable, just going within to that, then we put our toys down, you know, our judgments, our opinions, because we realize we've suffered enough, we've been confused, and we're done, and there's a way out. And it's always available to us.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's, you know, Source made the reptilian. So, you know, I know that's a very difficult concept for many to kind of understand, but, you know, and they were sent here, you know, so it wasn't an accident, and there's no such thing as accidents or coincidences. You know, it's more planned than people actually realize. And it's all about the experience, isn't it? Because this is the most valuable part of, you know, creation. You know, the creations are made for experience, to have that experience, and experiences come in many different forms, shapes and sizes, and, you know, realities, and it's really up to the individual about whether they want to experience that. And humanity offers that richness of that. And I know it's a bit of a strange concept for those who aren't awakened, can't see this, but for those who are, maybe, you know, these kind of concepts and these ideas will help to, you know, help with their own, you know, expansion and their awakening as well, to understand that there is a bigger picture to this, and maybe it's important to realize that. And actually there are a range of, you know, tools that are available to us, and the fact that the vaccine can be seen as an inert concept, inert idea, an inert reality is another beautiful thing. You know, it's like there is so much of this new way of thinking, new thought, that will help us if we're just prepared to, you know, look at it and experience it and see where it takes us. Some will resonate with it, Jules, and some will go, you know what, this is crazy. I don't, you know, I can't, you know, everyone has a level, don't they? We all have a glass ceiling, don't we? We go, well, I'm happy to believe everything right up to this point.
One of the coolest things that's been shown to me when the idea of unawakened people comes up is, like, I don't know, they get shown to me like Lego minifigs. Like, I'm the one playing this whole game, putting all the minifigs out there and moving them around, and I don't even know it. I don't recognize it. It's my thoughts projecting the experience. So when the idea of unawakened people comes up, I get like kind of taken by the scruff of the neck and pulled up a little by the mama cat, and like, hold on a minute. Now they're, as they truly are, they're fully awake. As they truly are, they're fully awake right now. Are you willing to see them as they truly are? And again, it's the slot machine effect. Like, you pull the lever, what version of that character is going to spin into view? Why am I so afraid to see my brothers and sisters as joyful, as love itself, as innocent, as fully awake right now? I can feel still a resistance to that, like this adherence or attachment to the old.
Yes.
And when I feel that, that's exactly where I can say to my non-physical friends, okay, I feel that. I'm giving it to you. Do your undoing work on that now. I'm willing to let that That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I believe you're right with that. Definitely, it's about the character we're choosing how to play. I also feel there's like some divine timing too involved with this as well. You know, it's like you've discussed previously, where we all have chosen to be awakened and to kind of experience various levels of experience at certain timelines. That timeline, I don't see it as timelines anymore. I see it as certain vibrations now, because that's what we moved into. We're no longer looking things in time. We're looking things as in vibration now. So as the vibration becomes, higher and higher and higher, people who aren't awakened are finding it more and more difficult to be in that vibration and not, have to look up exactly what they're experiencing, what they're feeling. And so this is why the awakening is happening a lot quicker. So you're right. I mean, we look at, our history over the last, 60, 70 years. Some have decided to awaken way, early. Some awakened 30, maybe even 40 years ago, and then there are some who awakened, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And then it's like, literally some awakened just a few weeks ago, and everyone's got their own divine timing with that, as when they've agreed and chosen to kind of come awake. And it's needed as well, obviously it's needed as, it's their own individual experience as what they wanted. But eventually you all get to the same place, right?
I like to call myself narcoleptic because if I'm feeling fatigue, depression, tension of any kind, which is still a very common experience for me every single day without fail. I like to say that to people every single day without fail. I feel some sort of tension, some sort of fatigue, some sort of, still very entrenched in the human experience. So, to say I'm narcoleptic, the moments when I'm flowing and open and loving and joyful, that's awake. But just to recognize, okay, there's some undoing to be done, and I'm willing for it to happen.
Yes, and I agree with that, Jules. We're all in the same boat, just because we're angelic doesn't mean we don't feel those, those roller coaster emotions. We do. Some days you're feeling really high, and it can all happen in a day. It can happen in hours. It can happen in weeks and months. It's just so variable. And you can feel really good. The next minute you're feeling really low and you're like, what the hell's going on? It doesn't make sense. And then you're, because we're so awakened, it's like, oh, is something attached to me? Or, well, what did I do? Did I eat something that was wrong? You build up all these, like, all these kind of reasons why you are, maybe feeling the way you are, the current state you're in. And then it's obviously, well, I'll do a little bit of meditation or a little bit of, relaxation, or a bit of yoga, or a bit of Tai Chi, or listen to some music, and all of a sudden those feelings start to alleviate. And that's the difference, isn't it? It's the fact that we have these range of like tools, these kind of spiritual tools that we can use to kind of change our frequency, and we can change it really, really quite quickly, because we are very much tapped into the energies of the planet and the energies of, everyone around us as well. And, it's a mixed bag of like a lot of things. And so, this is how we manage on a day-to-day basis. If you've been eating food that's not been really good for your body, and your body's going to let you know you're not going to feel good the next day. You're going to feel, especially if your vibration's high and you're eating things that you shouldn't really be eating, and meat is probably one of the biggest ones, with that. Your body doesn't vibe with that. It has difficulty with it, so, and you do not feel so good. Or if you put in, chemicals in your body, soda is a really big thing as well. I love cherry Coke, so I'm terrible for that. Some days I can have it, and some days it's like, you're not having that today, and they're really clever, because they will, if you like a particular food and they know it's not really good for you, and you try and eat it, it tastes off. It tastes so like chemically, or they add something to it just to put you off it. They're really good at looking after you, but we as humans are just not very good at like following sometimes. So yeah.
I had a really interesting food experience.
Yeah.
Similar to the vaccine one.
Yeah.
Because did I just lose my video? Let's see.
There we go. Okay. Lovely. Yeah.
I have a long-standing habit of being a vegetarian.
Yeah.
and therefore a long-standing habit of being judgmental and fearful.
That's very true. Yes, it's very
And
true.
deciding who's suffering and why and who's the villain.
Yeah.
Um, so being unwound from all that, I was told at one point, you can eat anything. It's okay. You can eat meat. And in fact, it seemed like I woke up one morning and I just like I couldn't judge it in the same way anymore. And I
Mm,
didn't know what I was.
mm,
And so I went out with my friends, and there's one friend of ours who just would be delighted if I ate meat, and he would just love it. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to eat some meat. Why don't you come out to a restaurant with me and we'll eat some meat. And I had a BLT because that was cheating. It was just this little bit of thing like surrounded by lettuce and tomato. It wasn't like I was sinking my teeth into
mm,
a
mm,
steak
mm,
or something.
mm.
But I did. I ate it. Nothing happened. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't nothing. It was nothingness. And then I kept eating the way I'd always been eating. I still don't eat meat. I still feel like a squeamishness, but the judgment seems to be gone,
Yes.
and that's a big relief.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm there's so much relief to be had on this journey, and the burden of judgment I was carrying, I didn't realize how heavy it is. That's the heavy thing. It isn't the food.
Mm.
It's the judgment.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
being given the pathway to release that could be feeling like I'm instructed to eat or not eat a certain way, because that's how my life was for years. That was part
Yes.
of the pathway. But in the end, it's my judgments I have to give up, and my
Yeah.
opinions, all of them.
I agree with that. I think that's really, really important. I also feel it's very individualistic. This is why kind of us talking about being sovereign and standing in your power is really, really important, because you're right. I think, meat affects everyone differently. And I used to be a meat eater for many years, 30 plus years. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden I just couldn't do it anymore. I just had to stop eating meat. And the reason for that was really quite simple, is because every time I consumed any form of meat, I could feel the energy from that. So,
Mm-hmm.
I could sense how that animal had suffered, or how its life ended, and I could even feel depression from fishes as well. That was a very weird experience to experience that. It was strange. You could eat like a particular fish, and it'd be fine, and you'd feel nothing. And I'd eat another piece of fish, and it'd be like really, I could feel, really low. I could feel
Mm-hmm.
depression through it. So it varies from your from experience to experience, but I also think it's how your body reacts to that energy as well. And I think as the more we become like high vibrational, the more we'll realize that actually, everything around us is energy. Everything, the table, the chair, the sofa, the air we breathe, everything around us is energy, including what we put into our bodies is also energy. So I think you're right. It isn't about the judgment of like one person to another. I think it's really important for people to be very individualistic with this and sovereign with it, and see what fits with them, because we all are at such a different stage in our awakening, in our ascension, that there is no right or wrong. It's just what it is for you right
Mm-hmm.
now, in this time, space, dimension, and reality. And then as you move forward with your vibration, that will change too for you as well. And yeah, it's important not to have the judgment with that. You're right. I think it's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was shown something so interesting about the idea of being an empath. I think this might be helpful for some of the people listening,
Yeah.
because I'm assuming a lot of us have been through that feeling like an empath thing and
Mm-hmm.
feeling it as a burden. Um, so it was probably years ago now, maybe about 5 years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
was in a grocery store, and suddenly it was like the thoughts of everybody around me opened up, and I could just hear a lot of things at once. And it was completely overwhelming and not welcome. And and I realized I needed help. I needed non-physical help in dealing with what I perceived to be the emotions and the thoughts of others. And I needed to seriously follow the guidance of that non-physical help, and I need to get serious about it. That experience showed me like, help, help is needed.
Mm.
So I did get serious about it. And what I learned about the experience of being empathic is that when I seem to be brushing up against the energies of others, took them a long time to teach me this. What I'm actually feeling, if I'm feeling any negative from them, I'm actually feeling it's like the cell walls, like if each mind is thought of as a separate cell, it's like the tension and rigidity I am putting into my part of the cell wall. Like good
Mm.
fences make good neighbors. And if I'm not allowing my non-physical friends to kind of like bathe me in peace and joy and safety, no matter what seems to be happening, and the illusion I'm projecting with thought, no matter what seems to be happening, then I'm going to really work at building that wall up and
Mm.
protecting myself and
Mm.
pushing against other minds. And so sometimes if we're in a situation like a traffic jam or standing in line, a crowd, or something that seems tense, we think the tension is out there.
Mm.
But really everything we see out there is reflecting back to us what's going on in here.
That's right.
So before, when I thought I was subject to kind of like the low states of others, it was actually being reflected back to me, the
Mm.
energy I was putting into keeping minds separate and
Yes.
huddling by myself and trying to be a separate self.
Mm-hmm.
And once I kind of cried uncle on that and said, I've had enough, I can't do this anymore.
Mm.
Let everything in, take the
Mm-hmm.
walls down.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a very bad idea to somebody who identifies as empathic.
Yeah.
But that's really where all the healing is,
Yes.
because it was my own effort in remaining separate from what I perceived that was causing my suffering.
Yes.
And to learn that was such a, I want to say a neat trick, but it goes much deeper
Yes.
than that. It's more than a trick. It's a surrender.
Yeah, totally. You're right. What you're talking about, Jules, is the fact that we're not really separate. And you're right. Sometimes we put up these barriers and these walls of particularly negative people, but actually, this is what many light workers and warriors have been doing for such a long time, especially those in the care industry. They don't have those barriers up. What they do is just be and allow that kind of source being within you just to radiate out without any expectations, just being exactly who you're being, through that God spark, through that source energy.
Mm-hmm.
And sharing it. Energy is like, it's like Play-Doh. You can pretty much do whatever you want and create whatever you want with it. And so when you offer it so freely, so willingly, so lovingly, it's given in such a form, such a pure form, that is, that when it's offered to someone else, they can pretty much use that energy to change aspects of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And me and you see this in the sessions that we do with Deb. It's like just being that energy, just being there, and part of that energy is allowing others to come to their own awareness, to
Mm-hmm.
their own being, to their own understanding, without you even having to say a word.
Right.
And that essence of just to be is ascended master stuff. That's what it is. That's ascended master stuff. That's what you're learning. This is how ascended masters do it. They just be. They don't say anything. They don't look at body language. They don't talk. They don't look. They don't do anything. No expectations. No reason for it whatsoever. Just to be. And through that, there's exchange, and there's phenomenal exchange that that you can feel, you can intuit, you can know, and that's what you're talking about. So yes,
Yeah, without
I think
depleting anything. It doesn't deplete. It's like a giving that's
yes,
boundless. It doesn't
yes,
deplete anything.
no, I agree. Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing that. It's really, really
Oh,
important.
yeah, you too.
I love how we share these things. It's so cool. This is how we kind of help each other. I believe in
Yeah.
sharing the knowledge. I don't believe in keeping it to yourself. I do believe in sharing whatever it is you've got. And it helps so many as well, because someone will see this and go, oh yeah, I feel like that, you know, or oh yeah, that resonates with me, you know, and it might help them on their journey as well. And this is the key, to share what we've got, because we've all got information, we've all got knowledge, we've all got, you know, experience, you know, so share it. It's like, this is the key, right? This is the key to unconsciousness, right?
Yeah, without exception, everybody has it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be the one self.
Absolutely right, Jules. That's right. I love it. I love it. This was like a bit of an ad hoc thing for us, wasn't it? We were just meant to be having just a chat between me and you, and then, you know,
what
we
a
talked
lesson
about
in the flow, right?
yeah, and we're like, this is like very raw, very authentic. It is, there's you know, we've not scripted it, we're not planned it. We just got together and we're just doing it as right now,
Scripting
right
would
here,
be
right
too
now.
hard. This is the age of effortlessness.
I think that's kind of like the key, though, isn't it, Jules? You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not, you know, it's scripted is not good, you know, and in some ways we're very much guided with what we're saying, and you know, and the things that we're hearing, but we are also like doing this is so much more nicer. It's raw, authentic. It's just off the bat, and it is what it is, you know, and there's no kind of cuts or added or taken out here. You know, it's just wonderful, and I think these conversations are always the best when they're like this. You know, it's always the best. So thank you, Jules. Thank you for like coming on and agreeing to do this, because I really think it's going to help someone, you know, and you know, thank you for being brave and having the courage and just like doing it, you know. I love it. You know,
Thanks for suggesting it. It was wonderful.
That spontaneity is like boom. Wonderful. Thank you, Jules.
You're welcome.